On April 21st, 2019, The Chosen Show premiered, and during that time it's grown an incredible amount. But the question is, how was it made? How did it go from a church production, essentially, into a global phenomenon? Well, stick around, we're about to cover that. If you know anything about The Chosen, you probably have heard the name Dallas Jenkins. Well, he's the director, the creator, the writer, the one who got the show going. It was his idea in his head, and he has been the creator of The Chosen Show all along the journey. From 2000 to 2010, for about 10 years, he was in Hollywood. He was in the Hollywood system. He made a series of faith-based films during that time. But after about those 10 years, he decided to move to Chicago to a church to basically create church productions as part of a ministry for the church in Chicago. There he was doing a lot of short films that centered around biblical stories or faith-based stories. While Dallas was making short films there at the church, he did a Easter short film where it showed Jesus and disciples, and that was where he first met Jonathan, the actor who plays Jesus in the show. He actually acted as Jesus in one of these Easter short films for the church.
I started working with Dallas Jenkins, the creator of the show. It'll be 8 years this spring. And he at the time was directing films for his church's media arm that would, whenever they had a Christmas service or an Easter service, they would produce different projects and films. And so he did a film one Easter called The Two Thieves, which you can find on Amazon, where he cast me as Jesus. And that sort of began our working relationship.
During that time, Dallas made a short film called The Ride. This was around the time when faith-based or Christian films were really popping up and becoming popular in the early 2000 teens. And a Hollywood production company, a series of them, actually got their hands on his short film, The Ride, and offered Dallas the opportunity to make a Christian faith-based film in his area, right there at his church, but they would fund it, and so it would technically be a Hollywood Christian film. Because of the explosion for faith-based high-quality movies, there was actually a verbal agreement that Dallas would work with them for the next 10 years, making 5 different Christian films. So Dallas got to work right away on the very first of these upcoming Christian films that they would fund. And the first one was called The Resurrection of Gavin Stone. Dallas finished the production, and in January of 2017, it was released to theaters. And they had projections on how much they would probably make even if it didn't do as well as they'd hoped. But unfortunately, this film did less than their lowest projections. This essentially made the film a failure. At that point, Dallas was cut from any future opportunities to make more films. And feeling down on his luck, and upon sober reflection of the failure, his wife received a word that she believed was prophetic from God for Dallas to study the scripture about the feeding of the 5,000. That same day, he got a Facebook message from someone he essentially did not know personally at all, and it said, "It's not your job to feed the 5,000. It's your job to bring the bread and fish." Dallas, believing that he was hearing from God, he chose to take that word for himself and do all he can to provide his bread and fish, essentially.
But in that moment, I remember thinking that my life was never going to be the same. I remember thinking in that moment that who I was up until then was different than who I was going to be after that point. Moving forward, I was going to let go and going to need to let go of the control that I felt so good at having throughout my life and my career. I felt like I was good at solving problems. I felt like I was good at getting my projects out to the world and making sure that they were successful. And I felt a sense of responsibility for that, and I felt like that was a good thing. I felt like that I could pride myself on being a problem solver. But I realized in that moment that the way that I had been previously was not the way that God wanted me to be. He wanted me to be able to live inside his will and be content with that.
So he dove back into his church short film productions and for Christmas Eve made a short film about the birth of Jesus. Pretty typical, except he did it from the perspective of the shepherds. During the filming of this short film, he got the idea of a multi-season show of the ministry of Jesus, but through the eyes of his followers. Upon completion of this short film, it eventually got around to a little streaming service called VidAngel, and they saw it and they reached out to Dallas and said, "Hey, we love this. Do you have any ideas for maybe more projects like this?" And he shared his thoughts on a multi-season show, and they were totally in. At first, he was like, "Great, this is exactly what I want to do, to create projects about faith and Christian life," and now he can possibly do a Jesus show. However, they told him they wanted to earn the money for it through crowdfunding. And Dallas was skeptical that crowdfunding would be enough to give a project like this what it needs, because they've never seen a crowdfunding project at this scale. But he decided to move forward in faith because of what his wife and this stranger had said to him about providing the bread and fish and let God multiply from there. They used the Birth of Christ short film as the concept for the crowdfunding. Once it went public, a little time after that, they noticed that it was growing and growing and growing, and over the course of this crowdfund, 19,000 people gave money, and it raised $10 million and became the largest crowdfunding campaign ever. So they got to work, and they got the full first season filmed using the money that was raised.
Action! Day one. Call time today was at 7:30 in the morning. So we had our opening kind of speech, talk about safety. I kind of share my heart a little bit, and then the crew goes and starts setting up, and that always takes at least an hour to an hour and a half. Actors start to show up, get into makeup and all that.
It was released free to the public on the Chosen app. And inside the app, it gave the viewers an option to pay it forward. So basically, if they watched the show, they would be given the option if they want to donate or just say, "No, I just wanted to watch." And through that, they were actually able to raise enough money for a season 2, which was the goal all along. They were able to raise $12 million for season 2 of the show. In April of 2021, Season 2 also was released for free on the app and the website, and started raising donations for Season 3. And the budget for Season 3, all through donations, was $18 million. Currently, The Chosen is raising money for Season 4, and it has plans for 7 total seasons of the show. The Chosen has become one of the most popular shows in the world, with an audience of over 100 million people. And as the show goes on, we're seeing more and more ambitious cinematography and production styles. Camera work for Season 1 was essentially a guy with a Steadicam getting shots all around the set efficiently. In Season 3, we're seeing more stylized cinematography and beautiful dynamic lighting setups. The set building has grown immensely in Season 3, from towers to set dressing to visual effects like the walking on water scene we saw at the end of this most recent season. Its cast is also growing with every episode that we watch. I mean, as Jesus' ministry moves forward, so do the people he impacts, and so do more faces and more characters come into the story. And in Season 2, they had 2,000 extras on set for the Sermon on the Mount. And in Season 3, they had 11,000 extras used for the feeding of the 5,000. In these past 4 years, we've seen this show go from literally a church production all the way to a global phenomenon where it's really hard to not have heard about. And like I said earlier, if you haven't seen The Chosen, you can literally watch it for free on the Chosen app or on the Angel Studios website. And to follow along the journey of production for The Chosen, you can go to their YouTube channel and watch all their content there and subscribe. But bringing it full circle, it all comes back to when Dallas received a word, believing from God that all he must do is provide the loaves and fish and God will multiply his efforts. And it took him basically experiencing a failure in his career where he thought that maybe his movie making career was over, or it just wasn't going to work out, something he couldn't recover from. And yet this indie project really has become one of the biggest shows out right now.
And we realize that those little loaves and fish from that short film multiplied so tremendously into this bizarre, unexpected, completely unpredictable shattering of a crowdfund record. And it led us to this show, The Chosen.
It's a pretty inspiring story, and it's pretty incredible how it's all come to pass. And I would highly encourage you to check it out if you have not. But before you do that, I would appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel and like this video and leave a comment. Let me know some things that might be during the process of the making of The Chosen that you've heard about that you want to share, or if you just want to share your thoughts of what The Chosen, especially season 3, was like for you. I would greatly appreciate that. And if you want to see me talk more about The Chosen, you can click on this video recommended to you right now. I react to some of the cinematography from one specific scene from season 3. I'll see you over there.